This comprehensive analysis of the Book of Nod with glossary definitions was produced by Fragile Hinges Archive Press trademark. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved. This work, including all text and original content, is protected under copyright law. No part of this material may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means copyright. The document, the Book of Nod, is a foundational setting text for Vampire: the Masquerade, compiling various legends, chronicles, laws, and prophecies relating to the mythical origins and destiny of vampires descended from Cain. This is a comprehensive chapter-by-chapter analysis, detailing key points and thematic content, following the structure and fragments as presented in the text. Introduction and Preface. The introduction clarifies that the Book of Nod consists entirely of setting material for roleplay and world-building, without game mechanics. Written as a product of scholarly obsession, it sets the stage for the legends to follow and prepares the reader for ancient lore and incomplete fragments. Key points. The book aims to seed authentic vampire culture in games. The preface explores the author's personal quest, the dangers of memory, and the incomplete nature of vampire history. The Chronicle of Cain. Origins and the First Curse. These passages recount Cain's story, from the biblical fall through his fratricide and subsequent exile to Nod. Key elements. Cain kills Abel out of love and is cursed by God with immortality, the need for blood, and unending loss. The narrative includes a parable about ancient tribes, representing the tension between civilization, Cain, and animal nature, Abel. The coming of Lilith. Cain's loneliness introduces Lilith, Adam's first wife from apocryphal lore, who becomes his teacher and lover. Highlights. Lilith awakens Cain's magical powers and introduces disciplines, supernatural abilities. Themes of power, rebellion, and mystical transformation prevail, with Lilith showing both kindness and caution. The temptation and curses of Cain. Cain is visited by archangels. Michael, Raphael, Uriel, and Gabriel each offer mercy which Cain refuses, resulting in specific curses: fear of fire, sunlight, blood consumption, eternal darkness. Gabriel alone offers hope, Golconda, a path to redemption. The powers granted. Post-awakening, Cain discovers disciplines: celerity, potence, fortitude, obfuscate, dominate, presence, protean, animalism, aspects, and the final path of blood, marking him as the progenitor of vampire powers. Scylla's Tale and the Crone. Stories of Cain's attempts to win Zilla, his first child and bride, and his dealings with a mysterious crone, highlight the theme of love, binding, and betrayal. Cain is manipulated and taught about blood bonds. The crone offers both wisdom and the origin of staking paralysis by driven wood. The Tale of the First City. Cain returns to mortals, is welcomed, and establishes the first city, becoming king. These passages recount Cain's embrace of mortals, the founding of Enoch, and propagation of vampire progeny. B. The curses passed on to his children, the rise of the 13 clans, and cycles of rebellion, war, and diaspora. The destruction of the first city by flood and the recurring wars and prophecy of the jihad. The Chronicle of Shadows. Laws and traditions. Fragmentary pieces detail Cain's laws for vampires. Progeny restrictions, the right of the sire, and the dangers of the blood bond. Laws against embracing the unworthy, moon beasts, and wild ones. The notion of kindred population control and the regulation of vampire society. Proverbs and commandments. Pragmatic advice, traditions, and proverbs are recorded. Honor, secrecy, discipline, and the nature of various clans. Warnings against blood bonds, love, and dealing with supernatural entities. The Chronicle of Secrets. Prophecy and signs of Gehenna, vampire apocalypse. Signs include natural disasters, awakening of ancient vampires, and ultimate judgment. Detailed punishments, clan proverbs, and division of clans are recorded. Each clan chief imparts wisdom to descendants, e.g., Bruja, Gangrel, Malkavian. The rules of the canale. This section covers the relationships between vampires, kindred, and mortals, children of Seth. Vampires have dominion but must not become gods to mortals, avoiding divine retribution. Mortals may serve, but there are rules about feeding and gifts. Glossary and notes. A lexicon clarifies terms critical to understanding vampire society: antediluvian, blood bond, jihad, masquerade, etc., and scholarly notes debate the meaning and provenance of texts. Step-by-step document analysis. 1. Setting and intent. Establishes that the Book of Nod is a mythic foundation for the vampire, the Masquerade universe, aiming to evoke culture, tradition, and ancient memory. 2. Core mythology follows Cain's personal journey, including crime, curses, and transformation, serving as the root myth for vampire society. 3. Magic and discipline introduces the supernatural foundations vampires inherit, linking their powers to Cain's awakening. 4. Societal laws explains the laws and commandments shaping kindred society, echoing both mythic authority and pragmatic regulation. 5. Clans and lineages documents the split of clans and the disruptions that lead to recurring cycles of conflict, exile, and prophecy. 6. Prophecy and apocalypse foretells Gehenna, the final city, and the ultimate judgment upon all vampires, serving as both apocalyptic warning and endgame. 7. Integration with roleplay suggests ways to use the book for in-game immersion, by quoting texts, finding relics, or casting omens. Full description. The document is a collection of mythic, poetic fragments meant to evoke terror, awe, and reverence. Its narrative interweaves biblical lore, apocryphal traditions, vampire-specific commandments, folklore, and dark prophecy to define the origins, culture, and fate of all vampires. The structure is nonlinear. Chapters are thematic, chronicles, rather than conventional divisions. Each chronicle advances the legend of Cain, unpacks core beliefs, like Golconda and the Jihad, distinguishes the 13 clans, and provides cryptic guidance and warnings for future generations. The Book of Nod thus serves both as a fictive sacred text to inspire in-game culture and as a philosophical meditation on corruption, power, destiny, and redemption in Vampire: The Masquerade. Every chapter builds its mythos with evocative language, fragmentary storytelling, and interpretive notes to challenge and deepen the reader's understanding. Expanded glossary of terms from the Book of Nod. This glossary includes key terms essential to understanding vampire lore and society as depicted in the Book of Nod. Additional contextual notes and some explanations come from the chronicles and fragments within the document. Anarch. Vampires who reject the authority and hierarchy of the elders and the Camarilla, seeking freedom and less structured society. Antediluvians. The 13 third-generation kindred, grandchildren of Cain, whose lineages became the 13 clans. Archons. Powerful vampire warriors who enforce laws and traditions, especially within the Camarilla. The Beast. The dark, primal urges inside each vampire that drive them toward frenzy and savagery. Blood bond, blood oath. A mystical ritual binding a vampire's will to another, creating a master-thrall relationship. Camarilla. A sect of vampires formed by 7 clans and allied kindred to enforce the masquerade and maintain order. Cain. The first vampire, biblical Cain, considered the father of all vampires and source of vampiric curse. Kenite. An ancient vampire descended from Cain. Caitiff. Clanless vampires, often regarded with suspicion or disdain. Clan. A group of vampires descended from a particular antediluvian founder. Elder. A vampire several centuries old who often holds power or influence in kindred society. Embrace. The act of turning a mortal into a vampire by drinking their blood and infecting them with vampirism. Frenzy. A violent, uncontrollable state where the beast overtakes a vampire's mind. Gehenna. The prophesied apocalypse or final reckoning for vampires, heralded by the awakening of the antediluvians. Golconda. A state of enlightenment and balance where a vampire transcends the beast, achieving tranquility. Inquisition. Historical human efforts to hunt and destroy vampires. Justicars. High-ranking enforcers within the Camarilla, responsible for executing laws and traditions. Jihad. The secret war among antediluvians and their progeny, a political and mystical game influencing mortal and kindred affairs. Kindred. Vampires collectively. Kine. Mortals, humans without supernatural powers. Masquerade. The practice of vampires hiding their existence from mortals to avoid persecution. Neonate. A newly embraced vampire, often inexperienced and young. Prince. The ruler or leader vampire in a city who enforces laws and traditions. Sabbat. A sect or faction of vampires opposing the Camarilla, often embracing their monstrous nature. Sire. The vampire who created another vampire by embracing them. Moon beasts. Vampiric werewolves or shapeshifters considered abominations by kindred. Wild ones. Vampires or beings who have succumbed to madness or who live outside vampire society. Diablerie. The act of one vampire consuming the soul of another, usually an elder, to gain power. Blood feast. Ancient vampire ritual involving feeding from bound mortals. Disciplines. Supernatural powers and abilities vampires possess, including celerity, speed, potence, strength, fortitude, resilience, obfuscate, stealth, dominate, mind control, presence, protean, shape-changing, animalism, control over animals, aspects, extrasensory perception. Blood bond chain. The mystical link created when a vampire shares blood thrice with another, establishing control. Children of Seth. Mortals, named after Seth, the third son of Adam, who are under vampire dominion. Those who serve. Mortals and ghouls who serve vampires, often protected and accorded privileges. Abominations. Vampires are creatures that violate natural laws, including moon beasts or diseased kindred. Chain of command. The hierarchy among vampires from sire to child, and broader society including elders and princes. The one above. A euphemism for God or the divine force that curses Cain and his progeny. The one below. Demonic or infernal forces opposing the divine order. Lunar year, a year and a day. Symbolic time period often cited in rituals and binding agreements. The crone. A mysterious figure who binds Cain in blood and teaches him the blood bond ritual. The first city. Enoch, the legendary original vampire city founded by Cain and his progeny. The Jihad. An eternal conflict among antediluvians played out through their descendants. The Dark Mother. A mystical figure, associated with Lilith, representing power, magic, and freedom in the darkness. The Hunt. The pursuit of fledgling vampires by elders to maintain control. The Sundered. Vampires who break or rebel against their sire's authority. The Damned. All vampires, condemned to eternal night and cursed with bloodlust. The Masquerade traditions. Rules established to keep vampire existence secret and to regulate kindred behavior. The Lost. Vampires forgotten, exiled, or destroyed in various wars and purges. The Blood Curse. The eternal curse laid upon Cain and his progeny, demanding blood for survival and condemning them to darkness. This recording was produced and recorded by Fragile Hinges Archive Press trademark. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved. This work, including all text, ideas, and original content, is protected under copyright law. No part of this material may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means copyright.